part that I remember.
Alan?
Yes, I was sort of a fringe part of the movement in the 60s as just sort of a foot soldier.
A little louder.
And what I remember from the 60s was there were dozens of organizations. Of course, there was CORE and SNCC and Dr. King and his group. And it wasn't all love and happiness. There was all competition, there were people, there was sort of strife between these, there was turf wars. Which group are you going to be a part of? I'm wondering if you would say something about that topic.
How that there were so many groups and they didn't always get along, and how did they come together for some of the events and work together? And a lot of times they probably didn't.
Well, I just gave one example of organizing the march, where there was a tension, not just the tension, part of the tension in Chicago was because of the divisions which had occurred in churches as well as in organizations. Of the political, this is the era of Richard J. Daley, Richard Daley, the first one,
Right.
who had been elected in who had been elected on the backs of the black community when he was elected the first time. But he immediately began to divide those people in all kinds of ways, particularly among the churches. So the tension in the CCCO was there right along. And as someone has mentioned, Larry Landry and others, Larry Landry was not popular because he was trying to organize around the schools. But others who could be independent supported him, male and female. And Lou Palmer and Georgia Palmer and people like that, and Bernetta Howard Barrett, because people had confidence in them, even though they might be divided on other issues, would come together, and the march was successful as a result of that. The school boycott in Chicago started school boycotts across the country, but that was started by people who were supportive of quality education, but headed by more activist types of people. Because the goal, the ultimate goal, if the ultimate goal is articulated and embraced by differing groups, it takes the leadership and the confidence in persons like the Dr. Kings in Chicago, the local leadership, like the Bernetta Howard Barretts and others, that people know they cannot be bought. They're not for sale. So those who may not get along on other levels come together because of the confidence, and they don't want to be reminded that they were outside the movement, which was what they said they were for. But then again, you have the dividing forces, like the political, who don't want change, and they will try to find a way to prevent change as those who want it come forward. That's the reason that people like the Dr. Kings are so able to bring divided forces together, because no one can say he works for anyone else but the cause, that he or she cannot be bought unless you are going to bring forward to make the change that he or she represents for the masses of people. That's part of our problem today, that we are divided because of economic and political reasons. And that does satisfy the status quo, that they can keep it that way. And cases in violence are part of that.
One thing that you didn't mention, and I'm just gonna mention it because, and then I'm gonna let Betty and then Howard, and then we're probably done. You didn't mention the black press, and I'm sure that, that they were very important in getting the word out and getting people together. The black newspapers were so important in those days. Betty?
Yes, I just wanted to also mention that because of the political powers in Chicago, some of the churches, black churches, did not want to have King to come to their churches at first. And that's because of the political pressure in Chicago that some of the black churches did not want King to come to their church. You know, so that's politics again. And some churches that were afraid that they would not get certain benefits if they had King to come to their church.
King, Paul Robeson, any of those kind of people.
Yes.
Mr. Black told me that First Unitarian was probably the first church that King spoke at in Chicago.
Yes.
Howard?
I just
And
very
then Rita.
just a very brief comment, which is that it's so
Can you
important
hear
for
me?
women to be in the movement because you women do not worry about who gets credit for things the way the men do.
Some men. Well, Rosa Parks, and Fanny Russian and other women were the leaders. And I just had a comment about the Little Rock Nine. The person who organized that protest in Little Rock during that period was a woman. I can't remember her name right offhand again, but women, young people have played a major role. If we don't recognize, just look back at the records in all of these changes. Because I guess for the women it meant that their children and themselves would be the beneficiaries of bringing about this change and make it glaring the inequalities based on gender as well as race.
I'm going to give Rita the last word, and then we have to get Mr. Black upstairs so that he can do the service. And then, of course, you all know there's a luncheon after service. Rita?
I just wanted to ask, did you ever lose hope in the movement? And did you ever have a point where you lost hope, and would you describe that and how you got over it?
Did you ever lose hope?
No, I knew there would be delay, but I felt that there would be delay. But I never lost hope that the change was going to come. I haven't lost it at any time in age 96. That's one of the reasons I'm here, is to carry forward the hope that gives you a belief that change is going to come and a demand that you participate in the quality of that change that is going to come. But change is going to come. What kind of world? Do I want a world like I saw in Buchenwald, where people are systematically exterminated? Do I want a world where people are drugged from their habitats like my ancestors on the African side were drugged from Africa and dehumanized? Do I want a world where a missile, one missile, which at this time is obsolete, is dropped on a city and exterminates immediately 100,000 people, and 2 days later, on another place in Nagasaki, 50,000 people immediately? In this world now, there is a possibility that such a missile could be dropped on Cook County and wipe out the whole county? Is that kind? So I can be selfish about it. I would be one of those exterminated. Why shouldn't I? Do I want a world where I can't? Do I want a world where I can't come out of my house and walk down the street without feeling that I can't walk, but I better not walk in the dark more than a block or so, and somebody gonna try to take my life or my money? Do I want to? Then on a personal level, I said, no, we have to clear up this stuff. Do I want a world where the policeman pulls out his gun because I happen to have a dark colored skin? He can shoot me and get away with it? Do I want a world where I see and get messages from people who say they're starving to death, from Native Americans and others who are living in starvation, and yet I have enough to eat? Is that fair? Is that in the Lord's name? Did the Lord want that? Didn't say, do I want a world where we say all people are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights? Is that the world I want? That's the world I prefer. That all people, male, female, whatever, are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Food, clothing, and shelter. And I have to fight in my own way so that we all have that equality. Dr. King, more than any person that I ever met or know, carried that message forward. And even though he lost his life attempting to do so, I have to feel that I have a responsibility and a mission to his heritage to keep on keeping on. Thank you very much.
Okay, there's more upstairs, and then the luncheon. Thank you all for coming, and it's been quite an honor to have Mr. Black here tonight.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you very much.